Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Today we want to talk about a subject that we're very comfortable with, but not too many people are talking about it today. One thing we want to mention before we get to that subject is the battle space. The battle space is the terminology used to be battlefield, the control of the battlefield. But now that we're in a new era, it's referred to as battle space. That means the whole arena in which the battle is being fought. So it could be cyber, it could be media, it could be physical, it could be psychological, right? It could be economic. So that means the whole battle space. So today, that's what we want to talk about, the battle space. And we also want to talk about the triangle of terror. Now, I want to show you a few pages. This says USA racism, Zionism, occupied Palestine, apartheid South Africa, the terror triangle. This looks like it was Monday the 6th. This was at the San Francisco State University, and I imagine this must have been in the 80s. And it was Musa, myself, and Muhammad Al-Assi. In those days, Muhammad Al-Assi talked a lot about Zionism. This one, who is the real terrorist? And this is called Devil's Triangle. USA, Israel, and South Africa. So now you can remember we've always had a triangle in there. South Africa has been removed and we replaced in the triangle Saudi Arabia. This one was October 28, 1989. This one was at UC Berkeley. And it was a representative of All African People's Revolutionary Party and head of Lecture of African American Studies, UC Berkeley, and of course myself. To educate people, the objective is to educate people on racism, Zionism, and apartheid. At the same time, unifying the struggle against world oppression. Okay. You will all remember some of our articles. Here's one. Victory of Masjid al-Islam over the combined forces of American Zionism. Now, there's several of them derived from this. But this is victory of Masjid al-Islam over the combined forces of American Zionism. The next one we had one called Triangle of Terror. Islamic Institute for Counter-Zionist American Psychological Warfare. In this one, there's some of the things that we had. Imam Musa will, inshallah, share case study after case study on how to practice psychological guerrilla warfare. The College of Strategic and Islamic Studies will give you hands-on experience on how to make U.S. agents and collaborators expose themselves. A special session will be on design fitna. And it goes on and on and on. One of the things on the Zionist American Psychological Warfare, or Counter-Zionist American Psychological Warfare, was the very naming of these outlines. The Islamic Institute for Counter-Zionist American Psychological Warfare. I'm going to get back and I'm going to tell you why we started these. I had some friends somewhere and they wanted me to start an institute here in America. And they said they would, in their own way, they would help it They wanted to know how much it would cost and what have you, and da-da-da-da-da. And they wanted, since it's an institute, they want a qualified person managing it with at least a master's degree and probably a PhD. I told them, well, that's going to cost a little, because they're not going to work like we work for Sabilillah, basically for nothing. So anyway, long story short, so I got busy. Now I opened the office here and opened one in California. The one in California, y'all probably saw that big sign we had out there. You got to imagine now, this, just the sign. By the way, the first thing that Mukhtar tore down when he was getting me arrested out there was that sign. That's the first thing he tore down, was that sign. The Islamic Institute for Counter-Zionist American Psychological Warfare. Now, one of the programs we had, this is the first time where visible Zionists came to the program. And they recorded, I'm sure, and they printed almost exactly what we said on our flyer. Now, that means it was on several of their websites, especially Steve Emerson and Daniel Pipes and all that crew. It was on theirs. So, what it did was this: Islamic Institute for Counter-Zionist American Psychological Warfare, that's using psychological warfare to the ultimate. And it's so simple, but so beneficial that it caught them by surprise. By having the program, by having the outside, having putting up a whole new, and it was a pretty big sign. I think the sign would be about the same size as a piece of sheetrock, 4 by 8, like that. Was it 4 by 8? Yeah, 4 by 8. Sideways. And so, we went from not being known at all to the greatest anti-Semitic, or let's call it second stage anti-Semitism. And knowing that the Muslims read their websites too. Because one is a terror website, he's supposed to sneak around and get information. I mean, we stayed on that because you could see they'd be in one of our programs with a thing copying what we're saying. And they try to get us in hot water. The one out there in California on 9/9, not 9/11, 9/9/2001, Imam Jamil for Pro, they had on there that I had said, we're gonna burn America down. If you don't leave us alone and if you don't get out of our business, we're gonna burn America down. So they sent that over to the FBI. No, they sent it, no, they sent it to the FBI. Oh, what's his name up there in New York? Sean Hannity. He was repeating it on his. See, it was one time the whole Zionist network. If we trying to build a nice little area around here, I don't know if you remember the newspapers. They talked about what we're trying to do and all of that in negative terms. Huh?
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, Muslim enclave, that's what I mean. So anyway, you got to remember, at one time, they was hitting at us with everything they had. And that was a time when you could come to Juma here and the white press would be here. The German press, Deutsche Welle, the Russian press. They had the Japanese press. They had everybody would roll in here, and when I would speak, Dirk Weller would say, I'm not gonna do that, because it'll get you in trouble. I said, man, just put the thing on there, don't worry about that's what I said it for. From down in Atlanta, Imam Jamil, remember they, Channel 2, did you ever see that?
I never saw it.
Did you ever hear about it?
Of course.
Oh my goodness, man, look at here. They came down here, they came here, and they would film, and they would film. Sometimes it would be more than one day. They would film, they would interview, and so the thing about it, down in Atlanta, they didn't like it down there. Seemed like everything we liked, they didn't like it. Did you get the letter about Imam Jamil sent everybody around?
I'll text it to you. I'll
Yeah,
forward
text
it
it to him so he could read a little bit of it.
Yeah.
While, and we'll print it out for everybody. Yeah. But anyway, so today we're dealing with the Zionist control of American institutions. Now you got to remember, it's like you just saw on yours that 96%
Yeah.
of the media is controlled by 6
Companies.
I mean, it's probably more than that. They might as well control. They control the whole show. And I was telling Brother Tariq, the first encounter I had with how much they controlled it, it was an old article. I was visiting Masjid, and this Masjid in Portland, maybe in Eugene, Oregon. And so when I would visit these Masjid, that was my way of getting up on exactly what's going on all over the country. If they had a magazine there, I might just kind of just drift away with it, and, you know, some books on the Islamic movement and Ikhwana, Muslimin. You got to remember that stuff wasn't available like it is now. So I would drift away, and one article had a picture, I couldn't do without it. It had a picture of Uncle Sam sitting in a chair like that, and he had a ball and chain, and he's sitting in front of a television with a Zionist symbol on it, a 6-pointed star. In other words, when it talked about the Newhouse family and how much control they had, I mean, we knew that they controlled the media, but it was shocking. This one said 96% of media. And it's all kind of books. And I'm going to just speed up and go to what I want to talk about today. The battle space. We have to think about, we're talking about this now because of elections and whatever. Can you turn the heat down there? Whatever that thing is. Just for a second. Then we click it back on a little later. So anyway, we always talk about who hired Trump, right?
Yep.
Up till a few days ago, we always said somebody hired Don, you know, because of Don's behavior.
Right.
But if you want to know, if you do a little research, who benefited, who had the ability, you know, to do that, who has a history of doing that type of thing, you have to come to Zionists. Number one, who had the ability and wherewithal to hire Donald Trump? It would be the Israelis, right? Okay, not that his son-in-law is an Israeli, you know, that's one thing. But also, what did Don do as soon as he became came to power, the first thing he did, right? One of the first things was move the Zionist Israel, the American embassy. He moved it to Al-Quds, to Jerusalem. That took all the steam out of the brothers and sisters, like Palestine took all of that. What are the patterns of murder that's going on in America? And by the way, if there's thousands of people in the street from time to time, why don't the police, if they got any sense, have a moratorium? Have a moratorium on killing black people. And why do they kill them in the way that they do? You look at the way the Zionists kill Palestinians. Ruthless, heartless, no sympathy. If you look at how they shoot the Negroes, how they put knees on them, how they doing everything, and then remember, they blaming everything on the black people. What's the name right now? He's not saying, he just went to the little old town yesterday.
Yep.
Why does he do everything opposite of what an intelligent man would do? It's because the Zionist is telling them what to do. And who can bring in all of these people? How can every parent and every friend of anybody that's killed talk about peace and love, and I'm praying for you, black people, and I'm praying for you, the police? How can that happen? But they're on TV now, right? Talking about, you're not talking about Antifa and all of that, okay? Those people don't have nothing to do with the movement. Why is Portland, Oregon still going up and all that fitna? Although the people yesterday told the mayor, the governor, somebody else said, please don't come here. We just don't, we don't want you to come here. We can't stand it, right? And he went anyway. Okay. Now, what about who has the ability to organize all those people when everything is died down, to fly them all over the country, because all of them are from out of town, right? Everybody is burning and doing all that, right? They're doing that, and that gives, it don't give, okay. The math is Don couldn't win, no matter what happened. But if the press pretends, the Zionist Control media, pretends that it's close, if he just says this, and if he says that, and then he says that, and he does that, they can make it a close race. Not only can they make it a close race, but look in 2000, hanging chads. See, we always mention this stuff loosely, then we come and we put it all together. That's what we're doing today. Hanging chads, 2000. Well, what happened after the 2000 election? George Bush come in there. And George Bush starts a war, right? First of all, they have 911. Forget about several years later, Ramsey Youssef and all them guys, that just gave a tip to what we're gonna do, what they was gonna do. 93, World Trade Center. Then 2001, World Trade Center. And everybody knows that that stuff didn't add up. Well, who could do that and get away with it? Who could shut down? First of all, you can't fly no plane. Several years ago, there was a plane flying along, one of them private jets, and the windows was fogged up, iced up, and it was going, and there was two military jets flying right along with that boy till it crashed. Well, the guy had a heart attack, whatever. He was just, maybe it was on automatic pilot, and it just cruised along till it crashed. And they was with him. Suppose you fly from Boston out 1 hour and turn around and come back to, can you do that? Absolutely not. If you are a hot second off your flight pattern, they're gonna scramble on you. So who could shut down the whole thing? Who could do that? Who could do that? The Americans could do it on their own system on behalf of the Zionists. Why? To have 911 and blame it all on us. And buildings falling that had, one of them buildings, was that building 44 or something?
Number 7.
Building 7. It ain't nothing hit it, right? It ain't got no earthquake, ain't nothing happen, and it falls down. Of course, somebody said, they said pull it, that it just fell down, and then after that.
Right.
Okay, we don't follow that old foolish stuff. We just grab hold to the things that can be proven. We can sit right here and say that happened, right? So all of this happened. Okay, and then the people seemed to believe that it was Israelis taking pictures of it, and they were very happy. You know, that seems to be a proven fact. Who would be happy with 3,000 people being killed? But under that, you get the Patriot Act, or they already had the Patriot Act. They had the Patriot Act and all that from back in '93. They only got a few tighter things from the World Trade Center. But everybody thought the Muslims did it. And they all thought Iran did it, right? Can you imagine? They gave a big parcel of money to the 911 people out of Iran's money. Unbelievable. Like, what we have. And how has that happened in 2019? 15 of the people are from Saudi Arabia. Suppose they just had, not 28 pages, probably 20,000 pages, right? Right? But the Congress said that this is not, they said it. They said that the guys that did it, they was in bars in San Diego